Morning to all. Today we are going to start a class on free radicals and antioxidants. Oxygen is required for various metabolical activities in our body because the glycolysis that happens in our body is mainly aerobic glycolysis. So for various metabolic reactions, oxygen is utilized, and the oxygen that is utilized in the body is completely reduced to water molecule. But sometimes this oxygen undergoes partial reduction. Partial reduction of oxygen forms a series of reactive radicals which are called as free radicals. A free radical is a molecule or a molecular fragment that contains one or more unpaired electrons in its outer orbit. Normally, oxygen is a neutral one that has electrons revolving around the outer orbit. Now, along with its electrons, it has got another unpaired electron, one or more unpaired electron, then you call it as a free radical. So free radicals are usually charged molecules, they are usually charged molecules. And generally they are represented by a superscript of R dot. So this R dot indicates that it has got an extra electron. So that is the free radical. So free radical is a molecule or a molecular fragment that contains one or more unpaired electrons in their outer orbit, and that is represented by R dot. Now this can be of any time, it can be oxygen or it can be any molecule, but if R dot is there, it indicates that it has got an extra electron. Oxidation of water. Normally what happens to the oxygen that has entered into our body? Oxidation to form water. Now, when oxygen enters into our body, when it is used after all the metabolic reactions and all that, it picks up one electron to form an oxide ion. So that we have oxygen will be having one electron. Then it will take up one more electron and two H plus ions and result in the form of hydrogen peroxide, that is H2O2. Now this hydrogen peroxide will take up one more electron plus, and it will be losing one water molecule to form a hydroxy ion. Now this hydroxy ion takes up one more electron and H plus to form H2O. So H plus will neutralize here. One more electron is taken up and it will be in water. So in that way, the oxygen is oxidated. This oxygen is completely ready to form water molecule, or else it is the oxidation of water is getting oxidized, or oxygen is getting completely reduced to water molecule. Now if this reaction happens like that, it normally happens in this way, but we see that intermediately there is formation of a oxygen which has got one electron, then a hydrogen peroxide, then OH minus. So this has got an extra electron, this has got an extra electron. So during the normal process of reduction of oxygen itself, there is formation of free radicals. Now these radicals, these are highly reactive, and we call them as reactive oxygen species because they are highly reactive and usually they are derived from oxygen, so they are called as reactive oxygen species, and these create a very havoc in the living system. Now what are the various reactive oxygen species that are found in our body or that are toxic to our body are the ones we should concern about it. The first one is superoxide anion radical. Superoxide anion radical will have two electrons oxygen, and you can T2 minus here. So it has got two electrons, extra electrons, or two extra electrons are present. Next is hydroperoxyl radical, that is HOOO minus. It is hydroperoxy. OOH, that is hydroperoxyl radical. It has got one extra electron. Next is hydrogen peroxide. We'll come to hydrogen peroxide. Next is hydroxy ion, OH minus, has got one electron. Then lipid peroxidation radicals. The lipids which have got ROH group, that is a fatty acid. The lipid acids or the fatty acids are ROOH. It will be ending with, because it is an acid, it will end with OO and H. So that H is lost along with one electron. So it is forming ROO minus. The lipids at the end will be having ROOH. So this H is removed and it is forming ROO minus with an extra electron. That is one. Next is singleton oxygen. That means only O is present. It doesn't have an extra charge, but it is just O is present. Next is nitric oxide, that is NO, and peroxynitrate. Whenever we say peroxy means it will be having two oxygens. So peroxynitrate means oxygen. Then along with that, got two more oxygens that will carry two more electrons. So these are the reactive oxygen species. Now you would get a doubt why all of these are having oxygen, but this has got nitrogen along with that. So these two, they have named it as reactive nitrogen species. So we have reactive oxygen and reactive nitrogen species. Reactive oxygen species will have superoxide anion, hydroperoxy radical, hydrogen peroxide. Now we are not calling them as free radicals because hydrogen peroxide is not charged. Singlet oxygen is also not charged. So the name is a little bit modified so that we can include uncharged are the neutral substances, neutral species also. So the name is changed to reactive oxygen species. So free radicals means the one that are charged like superoxide, hydroperoxide, hydroxy ion, lipid peroxide and peroxynitrate. These will be included as free radicals, but these are also potentially dangerous as that of the free radical. So to accommodate these two also into the reactive species, the term we use the term as reactive oxygen species. Now these two along with oxygen they have nitrogen also, so we call it as reactive nitrogen species. So these are the dangerous reactive and reactive nitrogen species that are present in the body that will create a havoc in the living system. Now, what are the important characteristics of these reactive oxygen species and reactive nitrogen species? These are extremely reactive. The reactivity is very fast and they are extremely reactive once they are formed. They react with the surrounding medium or whatever disturbance they want to cause, they cause it immediately. Next, they have got a very short lifespan. The half-life is very less. Immediately they will cause reactivity and immediately they will get perished. Generation of new ROs by chain reaction, and along with being highly reactive, they also generate new reactive oxygen species very fast. So if one reactive oxygen species is formed, if one OH minus is formed, it will give rise to 2H molecules. That 2 will give rise to another 4. That 4 will give rise to another 8. So it is like a chain reaction. So the process is very fast and the generation of new RO is by chain reaction and it damages various tissues. It does not leave any of the tissues once these reactive oxygen species are nitrogen formed. They react with surrounding medium very fast, though they have a very short lifespan. They generate more and more reactive oxygen species by chain reactions and they damage various tissues. Now, formation of reactive oxygen species. Now, how are we getting into contact with these reactive oxygen species like hydrogen peroxide, OH minus? By how we are getting them? How are they entering into our body? When they are so dangerous things, why the body will accommodate all these things? These can be formed by, these can enter into our body or these can enter into our body so two ways, from normal cellular metabolism. Sometimes the normal cellular metabolism itself will be generating these free radicals or reactive oxygen and nitrogen species or due to environmental effects. So the normal cellular metabolism itself is capable of producing the reactive oxygen species. Along with that, the environmental effects, the surrounding effects, like we have seen in the previous class of detoxification, we have seen how the environmental things, how the by means of inhalation, ingestion, all these things, the toxins are entering into our body. Maybe this could be one of the way by which the toxins, like these drugs are these xenobiotics that enter into our body, they might get converted to free radical. Next, how normal metabolism. So we have to see what normal metabolisms will produce in the free radical. Cellular metabolism. So what are the various cellular metabolisms that can form free radicals? Leakage of electrons from electron transport chain. Electron transport chain, that is biological oxidation. The electron transport chain occurs in the matrix of the mitochondria. It has got 4 complexes, then it has an ATP synthase. So in the ATP synthase, ATP is generated from complex 1 to complex 2, then 3 and then 4. In that way, the electrons are transferred to the cytochromes. The cytochromes pick up the electrons. And when these electrons are passing from one complex to another complex, the H plus ions are expelled to that. When the H plus ions are expelled, they once again enter into the complex 5, that is ATP synthase, and ATP is generated. But what happens when the electrons are being transported from complex 1, complex 2 and complex 3, there are chances that some of these electrons will leak out of the complexes. They can either enter into the matrix or they can enter into the intermitochondrial space, or they just leak from the electron transportation. Once they leak from the electron transportation, these electrons, and now mitochondria is rich with oxygen. Oxidative phosphorylation is taking place. It is rich with oxygen. So any of these electrons can combine with the oxygen and it can form a various set of the free radicals. Like what we previously have seen, it can form peroxy, it can form hydroxy, like that. That battery or that sequence of free radicals can be formed. So first, and the commonest way by which the free radicals are produced in the body are leakage of electrons from the electron transport chain in the mitochondria. So the first and foremost is the leakage of electrons from electron transport chain in mitochondria. The second one, some of the reactions that happen in our body are capable of producing hydrogen peroxide or oxide radicals like oxidase enzymes. In last classes, you have seen purine degradation. In purine degradation, that involves a last step of purine degradation where uric acid has to be formed. In the presence of xanthine oxidase, uric acid will form. Now, in this reaction, if you observe, in the presence of xanthine oxidase, there is formation of hydrogen peroxide. So, some of the metabolic reactions by themselves, they will be producing the hydrogen peroxide. One of the example is xanthine oxidase. Next is NADPH oxidase, that will be providing the oxide ions. So this NADPH dependent oxidase, this reaction will take place in the macrophages. So the first one is leakage from the electrons. Second one is production of the hydrogen peroxide or oxide radicals during the oxidase enzymes that happen in normal metabolism. Like purine catabolism, at the last step where uric acid has to be formed from xanthine, hydrogen peroxide is formed. Then in the macrophages, NADPH dependent oxidase will form the oxide ion. Next, due to the chain reaction of membrane lipid peroxidation, as I told you, once a free radical is formed, it will immediately peroxidize the membrane lipids. The membranes of lipid layer, bilayer lipid, you know that phospholipids, okay? Bilayer lipid layer, and to that phospholipid, fatty acids are attached. These fatty acids are oxidized, they undergo oxidation and peroxidation. So once these peroxides are formed, it will be like a chain reaction. One fatty acids will undergo peroxidation, that will give its electron to one more fatty acid, that will undergo peroxidation, like that. One peroxidation will go like a chain reaction and it will completely peroxidize all the fatty acids that are present in the lipids. So the next one is due to the chain reaction of membrane lipid peroxidation. Next, peroxisomes generation, that is oxide and hydrogen peroxide. These are generated by peroxisomes. The purpose of peroxisome is to produce hydrogen peroxide. So one of the cell organelle, that is peroxisome, can generate either oxides or hydrogen peroxide. During the synthesis of prostaglandins, one of the steps in which prostaglandins are synthesized, in few of the reactions there is formation of hydrogen peroxide. Next, production of nitric oxide from arginine. Production of nitric oxide from arginine. One of the biologically important substances that is produced from arginine is nitric oxide. The nitric oxide is produced in neurons, it is produced by the blood, that is blood vessels, and it is produced by the macrophages. So, and this is catalyzed by three different nitrogen syntheses. This is catalyzed by three different nitrogen syntheses. This is catalyzed by three different nitrogen syntheses. So the nitrogen synthase that is present in the macrophytes or the macrophages are the monocytes that are present in the macrophages. They will be producing the nitric oxide. And in the previous slide, I have shown that nitric oxide constitutes one of the reactive nitrogen species. So, once again to repeat with, what are the various causes by which cellular metabolism causes the production of reactive oxygen species or reactive nitrogen species? Leakage of electrons from the electron transport chain. These electrons will combine with the oxygen and it can form reactive oxygen species. Hydrogen peroxides and oxides are produced by some of the reactions that occur normally in the body, like during the synthesis or during the degradation of the purines, where in the last step uric acid has to be synthesized from xanthine. Xanthine in presence of xanthine oxidase will form uric acid. In that reaction, there is formation of H2O2. In macrosites, where NADPH oxidase is present, superoxide, it will be forming oxide. Next, chain reaction due to the membrane lipid peroxidation. The membrane lipids, when one lipid undergoes peroxidation, that forms like a chain reaction and continuously all the lipids will undergo peroxidation. Next, in the peroxisomes, oxides and hydrogen peroxides are synthesized. During the synthesis of prostaglandins, production of nitric oxide from arginine. This happens in the macrophages. Next, during the course of phagocytosis, when the leukocytes undergo phagocytosis as a part of bactericidal action, when that enters into the cell, the neutrophil has to produce the free radicals, then only it can kill the bacteria. So during the course of phagocytosis also there is formation of reactive oxygen species. In oxidation of the heme, in the first step, when the heme is getting oxidized to further products such as bilirubin and biliverdin, in the first step, there will be production of hydrogen peroxide as a result of auto-oxidation. Sometimes the auto-oxidation is what do you mean by auto-oxidation? The particular cell will undergo, or the particular substance will undergo oxidation by itself, like metals such as iron, copper, ascorbic acid, glutathione, flammine enzymes. What do you mean by the word auto-oxidation? By sitting like that, why do they want to get oxidized? Why they want to get oxidized by themselves? So this auto-oxidation occurs in a process when it wants to get rid of OH minus. Now iron, copper or ascorbic acid will be combining with the free radicals and they will neutralize the free radical. But the charge has to go somewhere. In that process, the charge is taken up by these oxidizing agent. By these antioxidants, they take up those charges. So that is called as auto-oxidation. Once again, auto-oxidation is a process. Auto-oxidation is a process in which the substances like metals like iron and copper, vitamin C, glutathione, and flavin enzymes, they take up those electrons and they decrease the free radicals. They decrease the free radicals by taking up the electron. So OH minus, hydrogen peroxide, all of these things are decreased, and in that process these substances will be getting oxidized. Then the body has got its own mechanism to prevent the auto oxidation or to regenerate this molecule as such. So to once again go with what are the things that help, that cause cellular metabolism, what are the various cellular metabolism that can increase the formation or that can form the free radicals. One is leakage of electrons from electron transport chain. Next is production of hydrogen peroxide and oxide radicals during the oxidase reactions, xanthine oxidase and NADPH oxidase. Due to the chain reactions of membrane lipid peroxidation, peroxisome generation of oxides and hydrogen peroxide. That is, these two substances are synthesized by peroxisomes. During the synthesis of prostaglandins, production of nitric oxide from arginine, this is the macrophages as a part of phagocytosis in leukocytes. In oxidation of heme to form bile pigments as a result of auto-oxidation. So in order to prevent the oxidation, in order to prevent the adverse effects that are caused because of these free radicals, these substances help in preventing the free radical free radical proliferation. In that process they will be undergoing auto oxidation. Next, what are the various environmental effects? The results of drug metabolism. In phase 1 of detoxification, we have seen that the hydroxy, OH minus, all these things are added to the drugs so that they can enter easily into the phase 2. These will be when these drugs are on the metabolites, when they enter into the phase 1, they get added with some of the reactive substances. So that's why we have seen why a drug that has undergone phase 1 has to go to into the phase 2. Why the phase 1 drugs have to get conjugated? It is because in phase 1, sometimes in phase 1, most of the times the drugs or the xenobiotic will get attached with some active species, some active radicals or active species. Damage by ionizing radiation, X-rays, UV rays, all these things will be damaging the skin, and that will result and that will oxidize the oxygen that is present in the that is present in the body into the free radicals. Photolysis of water. Photolysis of water means oxygen will be broken down to H plus OH minus. So that is called as photolysis of oxygen. Next is photoexcitation of organic molecules. When organic molecules get photoexcited, when they take up one more electron or when they lose one H plus ion, they will get converted to charged substances. Next, cigarette smoking. The cigarette smoke is associated with almost more than 1,000 type of the toxic substance, and all these toxic substances can bring about the formation of free radicals. Alcohol promotes lipid peroxidation. So as I told you, the lipid membrane that is present, the phospholipid, that will be the phospholipid that is forming the cell membrane. So this phospholipid that will be forming the cell membrane will undergo peroxidation. And that peroxidation, actually the free radicals itself are very active in promoting. But when these free radicals in the presence of alcohol, that will be enhanced to a greater extent. So usually the environmental factors are the result of drug metabolism, damage by ionizing radiation, photolysis of oxygen that will form H plus and OH minus, photoexcitation of organic molecules, cigarette smoke, alcohol promotes lipid peroxidation. Next, so once again we'll see what are the various free radicals. So all these things will be causing damage to the DNA. What are they? Most commonly, as I told you, as a part of phagocytosis, WBC will be continuously producing the free radicals as a part of its phagocytosis. As a part of the phagocytosis, it will be continuously producing free radicals to have a bactericidal effect. Then mitochondria. The mitochondria is rich with oxygen. At the same time, it is rich with electrons. So there are very much chances of the oxygen getting reacted with electrons to form the free radicals. Next, all these are the environmental factors like ultraviolet, right? From the radiation, OH minus can be formed. Various toxins from the cigarettes, they can form superoxide, they can form OH minus, they can form nitric oxide ions. Next, ozone, it can also form OH minus ions. Various air pollutants, all these can form free radicals. So finally, what are they doing? All these free radicals will finally affect the DNA and they cause damage to the DNA. And that damage to the DNA will finally affect the cell and that will lead to the death of the cell. Now, when you know that these reactive oxygen species are so dangerous to the body, then why cell is synthesizing this reactive oxygen species? Why during metabolical processes and in cells, why there is formation of reactive oxygen species or reactive nitrogen species? For protection against bacteria or any foreign substances. So to protect ourselves from bacteria, in order to have a bactericidal action so that the bacteria can be killed, and in order to protect ourselves from the foreign substances, the body, though it is risky to synthesize reactive oxygen species, the body is producing the reactive oxygen species. Now, what are the various organs or what are the various cells and cell organelles that will be producing the reactive oxygen species? Usually from the macrophages, from the neutrophils and from the peroxisomes, the reactive oxygen species that are formed are protective to our body. But the one that happens in the electron transport chain, that is when the electrons leak from the electron transport chain, that is the one that should not happen. So that is not good for our body. That should not happen. The leakage is a problematic thing that should not happen. But by desperately, the body wants to produce free radicals in these two types of cells and also in this cell organelle, because these peroxisomes are the protectors, or these are policemen of the cell itself. So every cell will have a peroxisome that acts as a policeman. Any bacteria foreign body enters, it is taken up by the peroxisomes. Peroxisomes will produce hydrogen peroxide that will kill the bacteria. Now these macrophages and neutrophils, their function is specifically to act on the bacteria that enters into the blood. So their action, this peroxisomes just protect the cell in which it is present, whereas macrophages and neutrophils will protect entire body from the bacteria. Now, the way by which macrophages and neutrophils protect the body from the bacteria is by two ways. One mechanism is called as respiratory burst. In respiratory burst, oxygen is utilized to kill the bacteria. So that is why it is used, the term is used as respiratory burst. So once again repeat with, by in metabolism, by body does metabolism to generate various reactive oxygen species. For the protection against bacteria or any foreign substances. So from the macrophages, from the neutrophils and from the peroxisomes, it is produced to protect the body from the bacteria. So this is called as respiratory burst. As I mentioned, this respiratory burst happens in the leukocytes, that is WBC. It is a part by which the bacteria that enters into the body is killed. So first thing, what will happen? The leukocytes or the WBC, when they come across a bacteria, that bacteria is engulfed. So this is a cell of the leukocyte. Now when the bacteria enters, the bacteria is engulfed by the leukocyte. It is engulfed by the leukocyte and it will form a vesicle called as phagolysosome. This is not peroxisome. Through the cell membrane, there is phagocytosis has taken place and it has engulfed the bacteria. That is called as phagolysosome. Now inside these phagolysosomes, the reactions will occur, then it will fuse with the lysosome. And now the reaction will occur and that will kill the bacteria. So first what will it do? These are rich with oxygen. The vesicles that are formed, they are rich with oxygen. In the presence of the enzyme NADPH oxidase, the oxygen will be getting oxidized to form O2 minus. So it will be forming an oxide ion. In the presence of the enzyme NADPH oxidase, it will form oxide ion. Now, in the second step, in the presence of the enzyme superoxide dismutase, the H plus is taken up and it will be forming H2O2. So, in the first step, the enzyme that is utilized is NADPH. The oxygen will get oxidized in the presence of NADPH oxidized to form an oxide ion. Then this oxide, in the presence of enzyme superoxide dismutase, it will be forming hydrogen peroxide. Now this hydrogen peroxide will take up a chloride. The chloride is a very powerful agent, and that in the presence of enzyme myeloperoxidase will form a hypochlorite ion. Now this hypochlorite ion is a very potent free radical that can kill bacteria, that can cause lysis of the bacterial cell wall, and it can just degrade the bacteria like anything. So you can see how this intact bacteria is broken down into fragments because the hypochlorite itself. Now when it is able to break down the bacteria, obviously this has potentiality to break down or cause lysis of this cell also. But what happens once the bacteria is lysed, this hypochlorite is also inactivated. Now, but you might get the doubt, when this immune mechanism or when this mechanism is working so fast, then why are we getting bacterial infections? That is because most of the bacteria will have an enzyme called as catalase. What that catalase will do, when hydrogen peroxide is formed in the presence of the bacterial catalase, this is inactivated to form water and oxygen. But when the immunity or when this antioxidant mechanism of the phagolysosome is very high, it can overcome the activity of the catalase. So, respiratory burst. Respiratory burst is a phenomenon that occurs in the neutrophils, and the WBC in response to the bacterial ingestion. Once bacteria comes in contact with the cell membrane, that is engulfed by means of phagocytosis to form a vesicle. This vesicle will fuse with the lysosome and it will form a phagolysosome vesicle that enters or gets incorporated into the cell. Now, once it is incorporated into the cell, the oxygen that is present in the lysosome will react in the presence of NADPH oxidase will form an oxide ion. This oxide ion in presence of superoxide dismutase will form hydrogen peroxide. This hydrogen peroxide in the presence of chloride ion will form myeloperoxidase. Will combine with the chloride ion in presence of myeloperoxidase to form hypochlorite. The hypochlorite is a potent or powerful oxidant reaction and that will cause lysis of the bacterial membrane. So this bacterial membrane is acted upon by hypochlorite and that will immediately get broken down into small pieces or the bacteria will be completely lysed. But bacteria also does its own effort to survive by producing an enzyme called as bacterial catalase that can decrease the activity of hydrogen peroxide. So this is called as a respiratory burst. The respiratory burst will include 3 reactions and 3 enzymes. One is NADPH oxidase, other is superoxide dismutase, the other one is myeloperoxidase. Now, there are other reactions by which the body can form. There are other reactions by which the body is able to form the free radical. Like when iron in Fe plus 2 form combines with the hydrogen peroxide, it will form Fe plus 3. So iron is getting reduced and it is forming OH minus free radicals are formed. So this is the way by which if there is more requirement of the free radicals from hydrogen peroxide, free radicals are formed. This reaction is called Fenton reaction. This is used as one of the important mechanism where iron is used as I told you, auto oxidation. In auto oxidation process, iron is getting auto oxidized to form Fe plus 3 so that there is generation of the free radicals. So this is one of the auto oxidation of the iron. One more reaction, this is called as Fenton reaction. One more reaction is called as Haber-Weiss reaction. In Haber-Weiss reaction, the oxide will combine with the hydrogen peroxide to form OH minus and hydroxyl ions. It will be forming the hydroxy free radicals to form that. It will combine with H2O2. This reaction is called Haber-Weiss reaction. It is catalyzed by iron, but in Fenton reaction, iron itself is involved. So the things that help are the help in formation of free radicals so that we can get protected from the bacteria or other agents. Number 1 is respiratory burst. Number 2 is Fenton reaction. The third one is iron catalyzed Haber-Weiss reaction. So that is about the reactive oxygen species. Now, what is the one that helps in how nitric oxide helps in providing and how is it helping in protecting ourselves from the microbes? In the macrophages, the nitric oxide will combine with the oxygen to form OH minus and nitrogen dioxide. In that way, it will be forming the nitrogen dioxide. So here, the nitric oxide as such are by forming OH minus, both of them are potent oxidants and they can kill the microorganism. So as I told you, the formation of nitric oxide takes place in the macrophages. In macrophages, nitric oxide is formed in response to any of the bacteria that has entered into the macrophages. Bacteria that enters into the macrophages will trigger the nitric oxide synthase so that nitric oxide is formed. This nitric oxide will combine with the oxygen that is present inside the cell to form an hydroxy ion and nitrogen dioxide. So the free radicals that are formed, they can directly act on the microbes and they can kill the microorganisms. So these are the 3 mechanisms by which our body is able to protect ourselves from the bacteria or any other drugs that enter into our body. One is respiratory burst, second is Fenton reaction and iron catalyzed reaction, and third is nitric oxide. So these are the 3 methods by which body is protecting us. These are the 3 mechanisms by which these cells are protecting ourselves from the bacteria, but at the cost of producing the free radicals. So this bactericidal activity is costing us because it is producing free radicals, and these free radicals, if they are more, they can go into circulation and they can damage the normal cells also. The free radicals that are capable of destroying the bacterial cell wall, bacterial cell membrane, they are also capable of destroying our body cell membrane. So a balance between the amount of free radicals that are formed and the destruction capacity of the free radicals should be balanced. If more of free radicals are formed, then the destruction is less, then that will lead to the death of that particular cell. So a balance should be maintained between the generation and degradation of the free radical. So that we'll see in the next class how the body is scavenging ourselves from the free radicals. The free radical scavengers in our body will deal in the next class.